talk about a massage business, we had a discussion about franchises, franchise business models, what it means to sole proprietors, smaller businesses, smaller spas, offering niche services. So in other words, not just the massage necessarily is different or packaged differently, but also just all of the accoutrements that go with that experience. One of the great things that I think large chain spas have done, like Massage Envy, is they've made massage available to a mass market.
They've demystified it as just something that only elite people can do, or only hippies doing it on the beach. They've commercialized it. Which has made it more palatable to the average consumer.
I think on a large scale, it's something that people may have at once thought of massage as being more of a luxury, and now it's something that, no, it's just part of a normal, healthy lifestyle.
It's part of that whole body care that a lot of people are really trying to get back to, because as we're aging, especially baby boomers, because they're the largest growing demographic, they've worked their bodies hard their whole life, and now they're starting to fall apart, basically. And they're realizing, and a lot of people are realizing, that in order to have a long, productive life, you have to be healthy. And massage is a part of that. There's a lot of shifting away from being on so much medicine or so many painkillers. People are trying to do something that's a little bit cleaner. And as therapists, we can tap into that, because that's what we do. We help make people feel better. We help them move better. We help improve the quality of life. And, as much as people get frustrated with franchises, they've really done a lot of service to bring this to the average person, that it's not just a birthday treat, it's not just an anniversary treat, it's part of whole life care.
Yeah, when therapists get frustrated with large chains, the sense I get, and I rail about this the more I look at it across industries. So it's not just looking at massage, it's really been interesting to me, because the past 6 years particularly, getting into education, running my practice, what it really was building the business. And when I dealt with building the business and marketing, advertising, it was an education in that specifically. Nothing to do with massage and bodywork. It was just about business. What I get a sense of is the American dream is still alive and well. And when I talk to therapists that want to have an independent practice, my main complaint is they're still selling a commodity. And that commodity is massage. And they sometimes get angry, they sort of get huffy about this. But the thing is, if Massage Envy charges $50 or whatever it is they charge for a package, so you get a massage a month, what the consumer wants to know when you charge $60 for an hour is what's the difference? Because they're both a massage. Why am I going to pay you $10 an hour more?
What sets you apart? And that's where a lot of therapists get frustrated, because how can they compete with a $50 an hour charge or whatever? And it's they have to think bigger. Massage Envy and other franchises, they exploded because there wasn't that area wasn't served. So you have to set yourself above. It's not competing for Envy's or any franchise's clients. It's why are you better? You have a full 60-minute session. You offer enhancements that you're not charging for, or you're charging less, or you're able to do certain modalities or techniques that can't be done in a franchise setting. You also have more time to really build that connection with your client, because you're no longer rushed based off the scheduling. It just allows for a more personable experience, because you're showing the clients that you're invested in their care, that you're invested in their well-being, and they will invest in you, because it's a mutual relationship.
And even if that's only $10 an hour.
For $10 an hour, they're getting somebody who cares about them.
When I talk to massage therapists and students, and we talk about rates, for instance, for an average client, $60 or $70, does that $10 a session break the bank?
I don't know. It depends on. It depends on what they're coming in for.
Yeah.
and how much that relief is worth to them. I know a therapist who they typically work with very difficult clients in that they have difficult issues going on, and it's very therapeutic work and very detailed work, and he only works during like banker's hours.
Yeah. Because
his philosophy is, if the clients care enough to take that time off of work to come in to see him to get the work that they need, then they're invested in their care and he's invested in their care. And he works like 9 to 5.
Did he have to build that over time though?
Yeah, but you know, he's built his niche. He's, you know, in part of those communities where people have these chronic pain issues or, you know, or these traumatic issues. You know, he's part of that community, and that's where he's getting his clients, and that's his philosophy, and it works well for him.
Yeah.
But that's what sets him apart from going to a franchise. And
even the part of like it works well for him, especially as a sole proprietor, because sole proprietors like me, we're like a jet ski. We can turn around, move really rapidly. We can respond to consumer demands.
Exactly.
You know, I can decide. Let's say I don't work Saturdays. Well, if somebody calls and says, "Hey, I want a Saturday," I can choose at that moment. Okay, sure. I'll take a client that Saturday. Being able to change rapidly. Once you get the business going and once you build the connections, it's easier to whittle. You're not starving. When therapists are first licensed, I see a lot of other massage therapists recommend to them that they just make themselves available as much as possible. Once you develop that personal connection, once you develop that income stream, and once you've got regular clients, then it's easier to tweak and tailor and streamline.
Start really building your niche.
To create the practice that you want. So let's say you as a sole proprietor, me as a sole proprietor, our businesses would probably be slightly different. We're trying to do something different, and that's where I talk about the American dream, and I feel like it's still alive in the massage industry because you can be your own boss and you can make money. What I do see across the board is if you change the massage industry to hamburgers, what is going on is massage therapists are getting out of school. They're like, yay, I'm going to sell hamburgers. And what they do is they say, I'm going to compete with McDonald's on price. And that's why they're losing, because instead of making a local free-range organic grass-fed burger with microgreens grown on wheat that was organically harvested by hand, whatever, instead of offering that burger, they're trying to compete with McDonald's on price. And I think that's an absolutely losing proposition because we cannot purchase at scale the way McDonald's can.
Exactly. And I think part of that too is they get discouraged when they're in that situation, and then they don't invest in quality continuing education and quality techniques that would set them apart from a franchise model or a regular burger. And then they get disheartened and just end up quitting.
Well, so me teaching Thai massage and rebranding to Reboot, what I have seen as an educator, when you touch on that, I offer something that it has taken time here in Austin, but other spas are starting to preferentially hire my students. But it's taken a long time to get mat-based bodywork in the public's consciousness as an option. And often the students who study with me, very quickly, once they understood the bodywork and once they started to see the benefits, their first question is, how do I sell this? And that was another marketing challenge because I, as an educator, I couldn't just teach them the bodywork. Because if I taught them just the bodywork, it didn't matter how much they loved it, they'd go back to the place they worked that demanded they work on a table and they would lose it because they weren't able to practice it. That challenge in marketing sort of sharpened me like a knife to be able to make it as succinct as possible across the board from a large chain, sole proprietor, chiropractic office. Like, how do you blend Thai massage into your session in a way that consumers like? And I feel that many of the therapists I would work with in class, they would get to that question because one, often the not sole proprietors, they're relying on large chains like Massage Envy to do the marketing, to do the sales. All they're doing is the service. But once you get into the marketing and sales and ads, it takes on a greater level of nuance because you're trying to figure out what do consumers actually want. And in my world, what I've done is I'm like, consumers aren't even looking for massage.
Mm-hmm.
Consumers are looking for touch, consumers are looking for pain relief, consumers are looking for quality time, consumers are looking for
that personal connection.
Yeah.
And that's also, again, to touch back with, social media and other forms of advertising. If you have, a commodity like Thai massage or Reboot, something that's not as well known to the general public because their perception of massage is strictly on a table, usually in a spa setting. Producing these videos, producing Snapchat, being involved in just general and pushing this stuff out so people can find it and see it. It's no longer this new scary thing that they're gonna, risk putting money on because they see it.
Yeah.
They can see the benefits and it makes sense with what you're doing, and then they're more likely to come in and do that. And that's where again, being innovative as a sole proprietor is important. Because you're no longer competing with just a franchise, which is offering this one thing. You're saying, hey, I have this new thing over here. Come and look at it, see if it's right for you.
See, but immediately when I pick apart what you said, it's like, hey, I've got this new thing. But again, it's not necessarily anything new about the bodywork.
You're correct. It's new to the clients.
Exactly. And what I always go to when I go to hamburgers, because it's something people are familiar with.
Mm-hmm.
You've got McDonald's, you've got Wendy's, you've got Burger King, you've got Fuddruckers, you've got Freddy's Frozen Custard Burger, you've got In-N-Out Burger, you've got Whataburger. Everybody in Texas loves Whataburger because Whataburger became the Texas chain.
Yes.
And people in Texas, like if they go move, let's say they move to Pennsylvania and they don't have Whataburger. When they come back to Texas, one of the first places they want to stop
Whataburger.
is,
you can't not have Whataburger.
And it's like, why?
Because it's like a Texas thing.
And the thing is, like part of Whataburger's advertising, or what I notice when I look across an industry, the thing about Whataburger is, if I'm a night owl, if I'm up at 2 o'clock in the morning, where can I go get a burger?
Yeah, Whataburger.
Whataburger's open 24 hours,
Yeah,
right?
most of them, yeah.
Yeah. So the thing is, I can go late night and get a burger.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if I've eaten at Whataburger for breakfast, ever. I don't know if I've eaten during daylight hours, unless I was on the road, like it was off the highway. And see, that's the thing, it's a business model. I complain about this consistently with food in Austin. There aren't a lot of late night eateries. Whataburger is open and there are a few places down south, but there's not a lot of 24-hour food establishments.
Especially quality places, at 2 a.m., you're right.
Yeah. It's like how many, and you have to have the market for this, you have to have people who are ready to consume this, but what if you had a 24-hour sushi place? You can go in at 3 o'clock in the morning and get sashimi. It's not available, but the thing is, and that's what I mean, are there enough clients?
Yeah.
So even with massage, let's say your marketing niche is very small. Let's say you're marketing just the CrossFitters. Now, CrossFitters make up a very small percentage of the overall population, but I think there are probably enough CrossFitters that you as a massage therapist, if you were trying to promote your services to them, think about how specific that is. How targeted your marketing can be to that specific group.
And that's again just learning what your audience is, because like you said with CrossFitters, there are people that are very dedicated to their body, so that they're going to be willing to pay for quality work. For somebody who is as invested in their body as they are, and that's where back to the analysis as far as pricing, that $10 makes a difference. They're willing to pay that $10 because you care for them.
And that's where it gets to this point where, it's not as much about the money. The money is it's sort of a murky thing. And I think as a society we're transitioning in lots of ways, probably because of technology. I don't think about money itself the way I used to. And maybe that's a product of having an affluent practice that's growing. Because once you get out of starvation mode, it starts to change how you look at things. Often when I deal with therapists, especially fresh therapists who are just getting started,
very focused.
Yeah, I think because they're hungry, it creates a little bit of sadness in a way. massage as an industry can be kind of rainbows and unicorns and everything's great, you're getting a massage. But at the other end of the spectrum, it is a business. I'm not saying it's not a heart-filled business. I'm not saying it's not a good business to be in. I'm not saying it's not nurturing, supportive, caring, full of heart, but at the same time, trying to figure out how do you build the business and still keep high integrity. The way that I've tweaked things over time is to try to save my soul, because I didn't want to sell out to the lowest common denominator. It was, again, that American dream thing where I wanted it all. I wanted to be able to have a more personal interaction with you and provide a service that you could afford, but also have it be as nuanced as this conversation.
I think a lot of therapists as well, when they start focusing on the money, just like you're saying, they get disheartened because they also pin a lot of their worth as a therapist on how much they're charging or on how much they're making. And, that's where they get discouraged, and then they don't want to grow because why? They're competing against their franchise, or they're competing with, so-and-so down the street who only charges $40 in their basement or something.
And the competition part, this is where I get to a point and I say there is no competition. I don't really feel like McDonald's is competing with Whataburger. And I don't see McDonald's making ads saying Whataburger sucks, or vice versa.
I get frustrated when I hear therapists say, when they get frustrated with competition because, so-and-so is charging $40. My response to that is get better. If you're worried about somebody stealing your clients, be better. Learn new techniques, learn new modalities, become a better therapist, become a better advertising and marketing, and just be better at what you're doing. So that way those other people are no longer competition, because you're in a completely different field as they are. I was out of work for a few weeks dealing with an injury, and I referred all of my clients out. And not because, I was afraid or anything. I referred them to friends. I referred them to therapists who had similar skill sets with me, and did similar styles as me. And I did that because my clients needed the work. They've come to depend on my body work, and they needed this. And I'm not going to just, peace out on them. But I'm also not afraid of losing them, because if they find another therapist that meshes better with them, that's great. They found somebody that works for them. That opens me up to take on more clients. And if my clients come back, it's because we have a better relationship. They've bought into what I'm doing, they appreciate my style, they appreciate what I'm doing, and we're going to continue on our journey together until something else changes.
Relationship, that was the key word to me. And I talk about this with therapists because the therapeutic relationship comes up again and again. And what I hear therapists stress is it's therapeutic, it's therapeutic, it's therapeutic. And it's like, we know it's therapeutic, why don't you focus on the fact that it's a relationship? And that's a really odd perspective, because as a massage therapist, you have to be concerned about transference, countertransference, intimacy, sexuality, boundaries, the scope of practice, and all this stuff. But here's the thing, when I'm able to comfortably, and I think in some ways in my practice I've mastered this, I'm able to be intimate and open and nurturing, even with touch, in a way that people are comfortable with, and males are comfortable with it, females are comfortable with it, gay, straight, bi, transgender, very open. So it wins me a lot of points, but it's only after sessions that I realize that it's actually fairly rare. In other words, not just in massage, but across the spectrum. If I deal with gay men sometimes, I often jokingly say that they're hoping they can turn me, because I'm so open and receptive to them, and in a sense, compassionate, because fortunately things have changed, since 1980, but the thing is, homosexuality is more comfortable, it's more accepted culturally than it was previously. But I always had this deep sense of sadness that men couldn't be open. I don't think anything about kissing my wife out in public, but if I see two men kiss in public, it's like, oh, wow. because I don't see it very often because it was this fear for years and years and years. Being able to focus on the therapeutic relationship where my clients felt comfortable, cherished, is a really, it's a big deal. And for me, it's something I feel highly honored to be able to give. So people would ask me about the difficulties of being a male therapist. And there are some challenges, but in the past couple of years specifically, I think my perspective on it has changed because I'm becoming more fluent, my practice has grown. It doesn't matter. It got to a space in my practice within the first 4 to 5 years where I realized what an honored position I had because I was one of the few males I knew who could deliver intimate, nurturing touch that didn't have a tone of sexuality. And what I saw with female clients consistently, there was no flirting and there was no sexual innuendo, but you could tell that I delivered touch in such a heroic dose in a non-expectant way that they were a little unsettled after session because they realized I don't get this in the rest of my life. I don't get it from my husband, I don't get it from my kids, I don't get it from my family, I don't get it from my community. And it's so rare, it again gets back to that space where just like with my gay male clients, there's this deep welling of like compassion where it makes me sad because even us in an industry, do we sell massage or do we sell touch?
I guess it totally depends on your philosophy.
Yeah.
I mean, it just does.
Yeah.
And I mean, in my practice, I strive to create a safe space for my clients, and and I've talked with other therapists who get frustrated, that their clients either won't fully address, for the areas that they need worked on, or their clients aren't quite ready to try certain techniques, and I totally get that because we're more educated than the clients usually, and we know that these techniques would be able to help them and alleviate their pain and alleviate what's going on with them. But at the same time, we have to meet them where they're at.
Yeah.
We have to come down on their level, create that safe space, build that relationship. That when we're gonna do something that for them seems scary, they're willing to trust us, trust our expertise and our learning, and trust them with their body. I mean, this is their body. This is what they're with forever. Their entire existence, and they're trusting us to try to make their existence better. And even if it's for just an hour for them to either check out of life or to get the relief that's been bugging them all day long, that's why we're there.
Yeah.
But that's my philosophy on it,
Yeah. I am amazed when we have these conversations just how close our perspectives are for the most part. I don't think I would argue with you about a lot of this. We just add nuance to each other's experiences and opinions. And I think having worked for 14 years, like when people say, oh, they don't want to take off their clothes, or, well, my form of work is typically clothed to begin with. So it's a little challenging for me because I think I've been out of school for so long and I've worked for so long that you become like a master mechanic. And you're like, how come mechanics didn't know that? And it's like, well, they weren't taught it. And they've also not necessarily had the same experience. It also goes back to CE classes, and when you talk about education, I took a big sigh earlier when you talked about classes, because what I get consistently with massage therapists is they feel like the CE classes are a racket. So my intro class is 3 days, it's $400, it includes the videos and the workbook to come to class. Therapists consistently tell me it's too expensive.
And I mean, that's where, at least in your situation and what I feel other providers should be doing is by going and seeing your YouTube, by going and checking out the review group and seeing whether or not that investment's worth it.
Yeah.
Seeing why that helps. I get very frustrated in the group when
the CE review.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, in the CE review group as an admin, when I see people and they're like, I took Bob's class, and Bob is a general. I took Bob's class. It was great. You should take it. None of that inspires any sort of curiosity, as to why is Bob's class. None of that it's just Bob's class is great. Why? You know, why did it help your practice? Why did it help your modality? Why did it help your philosophy? How did it help your clients? You know, why would I take this class other than, you know, a stranger's told me it's good?
Yeah.
And I get so frustrated with that because I love to learn. I want to know everything. And I want to be inspired, and I want a lot of providers to inspire me as to why their philosophy is awesome. You know, why should I try this? And I get excited when, you know, when I see your YouTube stuff and when I see you comment, because, you know, you're like, hey, this is what I do. Whether or not it works for somebody, that's cool.
Yeah.
Because not everybody is going to want to do floor work.
Yeah, no, and that's the whole thing about, you know, we said, like, Whataburger. Whataburger has a certain segment of the market, and my only goal is just to get my segment of that market. If anything, what I've had to learn, like, I make YouTube videos, like, you're fat, and I'm like, oh, wow, that sucks. Okay, well, I'm 39 years old, I'm married, I'm happy. Okay. You know, I want to rub bacon grease and eat donuts in my videos just to get more fat comments because, you know, maybe Google bumps up my SEO whenever people comment on it.
And that's your next marketing plan. Just put donuts in there.
But the thing is, it's about drawing your clients and your students. And at a certain point, what I tell people consistently, I've thought about this extensively, is I feel like the Grateful Dead. And the Grateful Dead is one of the most vilified rock bands in history. A large segment of the population, they don't even really hate the Grateful Dead, they hate Grateful Dead fans that they consider the most obnoxious people at a party ever because they only want to listen to Grateful Dead music. They're always wanting to smoke pot or, you know, whatever it is. And the thing is, they're so crazy, like if you've ever been at a party and seen two deadheads get together, it's like they wind up hovering in a corner talking about some solo Jerry played at a show in 1980 at some, you know, and you're like, what is wrong with these people? But my fans seem to be very similar because I'm actually, and this comes into more detail, more focus over time as I produce content, is I'm in an entire industry that does mat work. I mean, table work.
Yeah.
And I'm coming in and go, well, just get rid of the table. That is a really big transition. It's a really fundamental shift. And the reason I've had to adapt to the technology is I'm trying to get my fans in the same way that the Grateful Dead allowed taping and trading of their shows. So that before the internet, fans could trade them. And the guy who said, man, I've got a recording of the show from 75, that was a big deal pre-internet. And the thing is, that sort of marketing niche, when I talk about the Grateful Dead, is something that I've looked at through the jam band community. I looked at the Grateful Dead as the progenitors of that model, and it is very similar in ways to what I'm trying to do as a body worker, where I realized large chain spas are not going to do what I do in session. They're not going to allow students to train and study in what I do in session. My primary target focus is more towards independent therapists who want to excel and want a different model. You know, when your model is radio and a 3-minute song, and the Grateful Dead come on with Dark Star that's 30 minutes long, because they weren't making music for radio. And that's where the confusion is, where as a CE provider, you've got to mix the marketing, a sense of value. The therapists have to believe that, no, $400 is cheap for what he's giving you. Because then your focus shifts. I'll get there, it just takes time. I'm often confused by the marketing as a whole, but the marketing within our industry for CE classes is rapidly shifting. So for you, having a CE review group, here's the thing. How long has it been? A year?
About that, yeah.
It's only a year old.
I know, and it's already got over 3,000 people.
Yeah.
And that's where, like, I know we've talked about money and how a lot of, you're saying a lot of potential students say that $400 is expensive. I mean, because it is $400. But that's where, you know, one of the goals of the CE group is to have other providers that are charging something similar who may not have as high of quality of classes, which has given this, you know, like you were saying earlier, overall perception that CEs are a racket. You know, because there are lower quality providers out there who are charging, you know, a fair amount of money for it, but